Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. This is Raghav, and today we have a very important topic at hand, that is when to start your CLAT mocks for CLAT 2027. Now that the board exams are over for class 10, class 11 and class 12, basically for people who are appearing again for CLAT, now that the exams are over for all the three classes, focus has shifted entirely to the CLAT exam. So you should know when to start the mocks, what should be your mock strategy, how to analyze the mocks, and this entire roadmap is here with us today. So let's get on to it. So, firstly, before diving deep into the strategy part, let's just understand what the CLAT PYQ pattern shows. So, over 75 to 80% of the questions are passage based. Almost all the questions are passage based. You will not be asked direct factual questions. You will be given a context of the passage, and then the questions will be asked from the passage. Direct factual questions are minimal. You won't be directly asked who is the Chief Election Commissioner of India. You will be given a context. For example, say the vote chori campaign launched by the Indian National Congress. You will be given a context of the campaign and then asked questions from that passage. Most errors happen in option elimination, not lack of knowledge. Now, most of the students, they commit this mistake that once they ponder upon a question, they look for the right answer. But that is the wrong way to approach a question. You've got to eliminate at least one to two options first and then go on to the right answer. That is the best way to go upon a question. Now, time pressure affects accuracy due to negative marking. So obviously when you've been given 120 minutes for 120 questions and you're left with, let's say, 10 questions in under 5 minutes, you've got that time pressure and you've got the pressure of negative marking as well. So that is why accuracy is very important. If you don't know the answer, if you can't eliminate at least two options, you don't need to mark it. You are not being tested on how much you study, you are being tested on how well you perform under exam conditions. Now, this is a criteria that is there in each and every exam, be it JEE, CLAT, CAT. The day of the exam is very important. You've got to maintain that calm, you've got to maintain that composure on exam conditions. So, what's the best strategy for it? The best strategy is to attune yourself to the final day. The best strategy is to give mocks in exam conditions when you enter the mock season. So, this is how you've got to approach it. Now on paper, if we see, CLAT is just a simple exam with 120 questions, 120 minutes and a negative marking of 0.25 and a plus marking of a positive marking of 1 marks. But in reality, you're constantly choosing between two close options. So CLAT is not an exam which will give you very easy options, especially in English and your critical reasoning. You will be constantly choosing amongst two close options. You're unsure even after reading properly. This happens once you've not given mocks. When you've not given enough mocks, you are constantly doubting yourself when you're attempting the questions. Time pressure forces decisions, not perfection. So this is also consequence of once you don't give enough mocks, once you don't attune yourself to the mock test season, to the final exam, time pressure forces your decision. You've got 10 minutes, you've got 20 questions to attempt. Time will definitely get on to you. The pressure will definitely get on to you. So the best way is to give at least 30 to 35 full length mocks before your exam. Plus, those mocks should be in exam conditions. You should be sitting at a desk, you should be there with your OMR, and you should give it in pen paper format only. Now let's just understand where the maximum marks are lost from PYQ point of view. If we talk about the CLAT from 23 to 26, the analysis reveals that in the English section, the questions asked are mostly inference plus tone based, not at all vocabulary heavy. Even if they ask you a vocabulary question, that will be in context to the passage. What does this word mean in context to the passage? So if you infer the passage well, you will be able to sail through these questions. And if we talk about the inference questions, it will be mostly what's the main idea? What does the author want to imply from this? What is the tone of the passage? Is it analytical? Is it emotional? Is it positive? Is it negative? So these sort of questions will be asked in the English section. Now, if we talk about the legal section, principle is always on the easier side. Application of that principle is where errors happen. So, if I give you an example that Ria has gone to a market and she has parked her car on a slope, but she hasn't applied the handbrake of the car. That car rolls down, rolls back, and it hits Aman's bike. But Aman has parked his bike in a no parking zone. So who is liable? Is it Ria? Is it Aman? Is it both Ria and Aman? Or is it no one? So the principle is very easy. It's negligence. But the application is where errors happen. So both Ria and Aman are liable. They are negligent. So if we talk about the logical section, the same applies for QA also. Time consuming sets create pressure distortion. So talking about the QA section here, most of the students, they attempt that section once they are about to conclude the exam, once they are left with 15, 20, 25 minutes, then they go on to the QA section. But sometimes the QA sections or the cut here. Now if we talk about the logical section, slash QA and AR, so CR, AR, QA, these three components form the core of your exam, and most of the students attempt the QA section once they are about to conclude the exam. That is when pressure gets to them because they haven't attempted enough questions in a timed environment. So what you've got to do is, once you're attempting 10 questions, 20 questions on a daily basis, attempt that under timed conditions. 20 questions in 20 minutes, 20 questions in 30 minutes. So you've got to adapt yourself to the time pressure also. GK is mostly passage based, not memory based. If we look at the past 1, 2 years, 3 years of PYQs, the questions are mainly asked from the passage. They are directly given in the passage. So GK has somewhat lost its unpredictability in the exam, but still a very important component. So it's passage based, not memory based. So section wise, if we talk about the real loss point in the English section, students lose the maximum marks in main idea and tone, not vocabulary of course, because vocabulary doesn't directly come in the exam. If we talk about the legal section, mostly students lose their marks in applying the principle directly, not lack of knowledge. Every student has knowledge of the basic principle, law of torts, criminal law, every law, but they apply the principle incorrectly just because they haven't attempted enough questions, enough application questions. Logical questions spending too long on one set. If you are spending more than 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 12 minutes on one set, it's not worth doing it, especially in the QA section. Not difficulty. If we talk about the GK section, ignoring passage context, very important. You have to read the passage carefully. Sometimes questions are directly given in the passage. If we talk about the previous 2-3 years question paper, directly questions came out of the passage, not lack of current affairs. So you don't lose marks because of lack of current affairs knowledge. You lose marks because you don't read the passage carefully. Now talking about the mock analysis, how to do it and how toppers do it. Mock analysis is not just checking answers. Most of the students, 90% of the students, they just attempt, they check score and they see the solutions. But what the top 10% do, they attempt the mock, they diagnose their thinking process. Why did I attempt this question if I wasn't sure? Why did I choose this particular option? Why did I fall down for this trap? They diagnose their thinking process and then they track patterns. They track their own patterns of attempting the exam. So let's just understand this with an example. Now let's just understand this with an example, a surface analysis which 90% of the students do. They just go through the mock analysis and then they just say ki I got this wrong. But if we talk about the real analysis, is why did this option look right to me? Was it lack of proper knowledge? Was it a conceptual problem? Or was the option a narrow option or a broader option? So why did this option look right to me? That is the real analysis. And if we talk about a second example is you just conclude in your mind that I need more practice. But you've got to analyze it in a more narrow way. Was it you misreading the scope, tone, or condition? So, this is very important. You've got to analyze your mistakes very narrow. A surface analysis, again, I need more practice. You just conclude in your mind that you need more practice. You go through the same sort of questions on a daily basis, then starting from the first day to, let's say, fifth, sixth day, you just conclude in your mind that you need more practice. But what you don't analyze is, again, an example of surface analysis is I need more practice. You just conclude in your mind that you need more practice, and then you start doing the same sort of questions. But what you don't do is you analyzing it in a more narrow way is that I misread. But what you don't do is analyze that question in a more narrow way. Was it you misreading the scope, tone, or condition? So this is an example of a surface analysis versus a real analysis, what it looks like. Now, what should be your mock analysis template? Whether it be on Excel, whether it be in your notebook, how you should be analyzing that mock. So just make a column, mock number, section, question type, your answer, correct answer. What you write, mock number mein you just write down the mock number. Section, just make a separate template for each and every section. So let's say you are analyzing the English section, then write the question type, very important. Then you write your answer and then you write the correct answer. Then write the error type, very important. Was it a scope error? Let's say you are asked a question, what is the main idea of the passage? And you choose a more broader option than the narrower one. So was it a scope error? And you picked the broader option and the answer was a narrow option. Very important for you. Why you fell for it? Again, in one line you've got to describe that why you fell for the wrong option. Sounded more complete. Did the broader option sound more complete to you than the narrower one? If the analysis is also not making sense to you, discuss it up with the English faculty that is teaching you. Was it a keyword trap? Then the correct thinking process is match the passage, not tone exaggeration. So you've got to match the correct answer with the passage and just try to make a sense out of it, that why did the author choose this particular option. So you've got to align your thinking process with the thinking of the author. Very important for you. And last thing, was it a repeat mistake? Are you making the same mistake again and again? If yes, write down yes. And if it happens more than 4 times or 5 times, practice those sort of questions, 50, 60, 70 questions of the same sort. So this is a very good template if you're analyzing your mock. Now, if we talk about a section-wise analysis, what you've got to track in the question type and what's the... Now, if we talk about a section-wise deep analysis, आपको करना है section-wise और उस section से किस type के questions आते हैं. So the English section, what you've got to track is tone plus main idea errors. Mostly 80 to 90% of questions are these sort of questions only in French. So it's 90% not lack of knowledge, it's principal misapplication. But you've applied it in the wrong way. So principal misapplication is what you've got to track in the legal section. Of course, the question type is twisting the facts. So the author loves to twist the facts in the legal reasoning section. In the logical section, you've got to track your time per set. Very important for your logical and your quant section. Of course, the question type is analytical because the paper pattern changed majorly last year. So you've got to keep track of analytical puzzles / CR passages. So anything can happen because CLAT is known to be very unpredictable. Anything can happen on the exam day. So you've got to be prepared for AR and CR both. What you've got to track is the passage plus memory conflict. Should I memorize each and every event or should I give it the context of the passage? This is what you've got to track in the GK section. So what's the best way to do it? Revise 8 to 12 months of current affairs and attempt sectional tests, because sectional tests will give you the context of each and every question type. आपने लेट्स से ईरान के बारे में, इजराइल ईरान कॉन्फ्लिक्ट के बारे में पढ़ लिया है, बट आपको क्वेश्चंस नहीं पता कि हैं, सो जस्ट अटेम्प्ट द सेक्शनल टेस्ट, यू विल बी गुड टू गो इन दिस सेक्शन. Quants may, of course, the legal, like the logical section, time versus accuracy. So, should I attempt maximum number of questions in minimum time, or should I attempt minimum number of questions in maximum time? How can you maximize your accuracy in this section? That is the main thing to track. Of course, the real question type is DI sets. So, I would suggest you to first attempt 20-30 questions on a beginner level basis, just attempt one liners and then go on to the DI sets. So let's just understand how to analyze a mock step by step. So step 1 should be to put in the raw data. What is your score? What is your attempts? What was the accuracy? Was it 50%, 60%? And what was the time per section? Very important. Now moving on to the question level analysis of each and every section. So let's just make a template of the English section and then go on to the correct number of questions. So the number of correct questions, was it you being sure or was it a guess? Again, very important. And if it's a wrong question, why exactly did you mark it wrong? Was it a concept error? Was it a knowledge error? What was it? Step 3 is to extract the pattern out of the analysis that you've done question wise. You've got to write it in a brief way in your notebook that I lost marks in this section, in this sort of questions, and I waste time in this section and I fall for these sort of options. Step 4 is to, of course, take action. So let's say you've analyzed that you take the maximum amount of time in the logical section, in the CR section / AR section. So what you've got to do different in the next mock is to allocate more time to the AR section. So you've got to reframe your mock strategy with each and every mock. So once you've given the first 5-6 mocks, you will understand your own pattern, and then going from the 7th mock onwards, you will have to reframe your strategy according to those first 5-6 mocks. Now coming on to your error logbook. What your error notebook should be showing after the first 10-15 mocks. Patterns should be emerging. क्या आप मेन आइडिया के क्वेश्चंस में गलती कर रहे हो? You've got to write that. क्या if your mistake is GK section, due to overconfidence or due to lack of knowledge, you will revise the compendium again. So once you know your patterns, you will work upon them. So if you're a beginner who has just started preparing for CLAT, what should be your mock strategy? Step 1 is to go through the PYQs fully. Solve the PYQs fully. Isme you can just solve it without the timer. Just go through the exam and just have a gist of the pattern, have a gist of the type of questions that are being asked. Is it more on the analytical side? Is it more on the main idea side in the English section? You can also do it with the help of AI. Just upload the PYQs in AI and just tell it to give you the exact question types, the exact difficulty types. So make sure you use AI, you use templates in this mock analysis, in this beginner mock strategy. Step 2 is to identify trap patterns, where you lack, where you are set up in a trap. So you've got to identify those trap patterns. Step 3 is to do sectionals for control. So once you have solved PYQs fully, once you have a gist of the pattern of the exam, you've got to do sectionals for control. You can do 4 to 5 sectionals per week, one sectional for each subject. And then once you've completed 50 to 60% of your syllabus, go for one full length mock per week in a timed condition, in a CLAT exam environment. So make sure you do it in a OMR and pen paper based system. And step 5 is to analyze the mocks properly in the strategy according to the strategy that we've just told you, and then increase the frequency only once your analysis improves, only once your analysis shows that you are making an improvement. So let's say mock 1 mein you are making a mistake in the main idea questions, and then in mock 5 the main idea questions mistakes are not there, your analysis is showing that you are making an improvement, so then you can increase your frequency. So this is it from my side. I hope you found the video valuable, and I hope that you implement this strategy in your mocks, while you're attempting the mocks, while you're analyzing the mocks, and I hope that you do make it to the top law schools. Thank you.